Best synth purchase to date. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the MPC platform. So it's 2023. Obviously, Akai is going to be bringing some updates in the future. I was curious as to what you guys out there are interested in seeing in updates for the MPC. I have my own thoughts on updates in terms of software, also hardware as well, but mostly software. And it was interesting to see the comments over the past couple days. So we're going to talk about those in this video. So as you can see, I got the MPC One hooked up right here. It's not actually hooked up for a setup. I just wanted to use it for discussions right here because we're in the middle of doing a Digitac set that is not complete yet. So still working on that, but I definitely wanted to have the MPC in front of me to talk about some of these things. So I've been using the MPC for the past few years now, and I really enjoy this platform. We own the MPC One, which usually lives in this studio. And then we have the MPC Live 2 as well, which is in our alternate studio, which Meems usually writes a bunch of beats on that. That's kind of her main driver, and the MPC One has really been like the studio driver because you can use it with the software as well. And when I first got the MPC, I wasn't really using the MPC software specifically. It was just strictly hardware. And at this point, it now gets used 50-50. I do a lot of hardware-based jams and stuff with the MPC, but I also now do a lot of stuff with the software as well because I actually prefer using the MPC when I'm doing beats or the drums and all that inside of Ableton Live. It's just kind of the workflow that's developed over time. The reason why I mentioned this is just to give a little bit of background. You know, we've done a lot of hardware jams on the channel, done a lot of videos on the MPC platform in general. So just a little background if you're new to the channel. What I would like to see in the near future, the number one thing is better audio features for this platform. Now I know a lot of people say, just get the Akai Force when I start talking about audio, like sequence length and stuff like that. I don't have the Akai Force, and I also don't think I should have to buy an Akai Force just for some of these features. I think the MPC platform itself could easily handle better audio features. The audio features in the MPC, I think, are really lacking, both in the looper side and the audio channel side. So the audio channels in the hardware version can only do, I think it's like 8 tracks or 10 tracks, and there's also a 5-minute limit to how long they can record. The other problem is you can't actually arm a track mid-playing and have it like trigger the next time it goes around in a sequence. I think this is a big problem. So for instance, if I'm playing this, if I hit record, it automatically starts recording and then it goes to the end and it stops. So that right there kills any kind of potential to do a live recording setup type of thing. Like essentially treat it like a looper. Like you can't use the audio tracks to treat them as a looper in this current version of the MPC. I think that's a big miss. I would love to see that change. The other thing is you can't just immediately start overdubbing into the track. At least I don't think. If I'm wrong about this, definitely correct me. You know, drop some comments below and say, actually, Tuft, there's a little setting in the preferences. One thing about the MPCs is that they're extremely complex, so you can easily miss settings in there that could make big changes for you. So, also side note, it is raining here in Northern California, so if you hear a lot of drizzle in my microphone, it's because it's raining outside. So yeah, with the audio, I haven't found a way to just start overdubbing outside of the looper. The looper allows you to overdub, which is nice because it treats it like an actual looper, but the looper is limited, and I'll get to that here in a minute. Yeah, if we're just playing and then you hit record or overdub doesn't even work in audio. So like you would think, oh, you want to overdub, just hit overdub. Well, it doesn't work like that. So that's a big bummer. In order to actually start from the very beginning of a track, you have to hit record and then play start. And then you get the countdown and then it starts recording, records over it, and then it stops. So another problem that I see with this setup right here is it's extremely rudimentary in what you can do once you have audio clips. Like for instance, there's no export this specific clip. Like if I hold shift, like again, if I'm wrong about this, let me know. But as far as I can tell, you can't edit a chunk out of the audio window and then say, extract this piece so it's in my sample pool. I don't see that. You have to actually go to sample edit. So you go sample edit, whoops, sample edit in the audio recording. Is it this one? Maybe it's audio 3. And then you're outside of the measures right there. It's like one of the things that's cool about working with the audio is that you can see it in measures. So you could be like, chop this into, you know, like take this bar, that type of thing, and then immediately put those into like clip sessions or something like that, or just trigger them in regular programs, so you can trigger it on the beat so it starts playing. So with the way it's currently set up, it doesn't work that way. The other thing is that you can't record beyond the sequence length. And this is one of these things a lot of people say, well, just get an Akai Force if you want to record longer audio clips or something like that. It's like, again, I shouldn't have to buy an Akai Force just for the audio features. So if you want to record the audio tail of a 4-bar loop, then you have to set your sequence basically to like double, you know, so 8 bars. So you will get the tail in that file if you want to use it. That's unfortunate because a lot of times you want to stick with a 4-bar loop, but you'd like your audio to just record a little bit longer. So Akai, please consider updating some of these features. For one, unlink audio tracks from the actual sequence length, or at least enable a way to be able to record longer pieces of audio with the actual sequence playing. Second, allow us to arm a track to start recording after the sequence starts over. So if you want to say, like you have a 4-bar sequence and you're like, I'd like to start recording at the top while it plays, allow that, because then you could actually start treating some of this as a looper, you know? Overdubbing would be nice. Be really nice actually to be like, oh, I just want to overdub real quick for this piece of audio by hitting overdub, and it starts recording, and as soon as I unclick overdub, then it comes back, or it goes back to whatever was previously recorded on there. Those would all be really nice. Let's talk about the looper now. So the looper is really, it's kind of bare bones. It's rudimentary at this point. It gets the job done, kind of, for the most part. First problem that I have with the looper is that you can only go up to 16 bars. Now, no problem if you're just doing 4-bar loops and all that, so you can work with your samples and record them that way. But we do a lot of ambient music, and we definitely like to record longer pieces in a looped type of format. That is difficult when working with audio on the MPC platform right now. So I'd love to see the looper itself expand. In fact, I'd love to see the looper become seriously featured in the MPC platform, because with the effects, I think this platform could seriously challenge the best loopers out there if they just gave it the right software. For instance, let's have multiple tracks on this looper, you know? So like there's only one track that you can record into the looper, and you can't overdub and all that, which is great because it's a looper, obviously. But it would be really nice to be able to expand that to like say 3 or 4 different tracks, let's say 1-minute long loops on there, and be able to record it and then hit overdub and like use the pads or something to be able to trigger different actions with the loops and all that. I think that would be really just money, honestly, because the effects are really good in the MPC, especially with Air Flavor Pro in there, and I'm sure additional stuff is coming down the road. So I really think that if they put a bit more effort into the looper, they could have something where a lot of people would be interested in the MPC for that as the main feature, and everything else is kind of like a side feature. Because being able to sequence everything and then use the looper to control the recording of some of those sequences would be amazing. Yeah. As it is right now, the looper is basically the main way that I'm able to write a sequence for a piece of gear and then record it into the MPC. And it's limited because, again, it's only 16 bars. So while that works for a lot of projects, if I'm doing something, again, that is more ambient based, or let's just say I'm jamming, you know, let's say I want to jam for 64 bars and then pick like the best 16 bar chunk. You can't do that right now with this. And the only way to actually do that would be to use the audio tracks, and then you have to set up a 64 bar sequence, record your thing, and then, you know, deal with the fact that you have a 64 bar loop now. It's a bit of a pain in the ass. So the other thing too, the sampler itself, while you can record, you know, like I've got 12 minutes on here, you can't start the sampler with play start, which I just don't understand why they didn't do this. In fact, a lot of the times, a lot of samplers won't have a start the recording on the start of the play, which I find strange, because like there could just be a little checkbox that says start recording on play or something like that when you're in the sampler. And that would solve some of this issue right here. Like you could technically play for 64 bars, or you could play for 5 minutes of jamming to try to get the thing that you want, and then be able to have that sample and then go and work with that and chop it. Because for me, I like to hit play, you know, and have the recording line up exactly on the one. So then 4 bars go by or something like that, and then I start jamming or playing, and then I know that everything is in time with that. So I don't have to go in and try to figure out exactly where my actual one is on the jam versus it just being on here. So those are my main audio type of things that I would like to see in the platform grow. There's some nitpicking type of stuff. Well, maybe not nitpicking, like it's bigger stuff that would be nice. Like when editing actual, let's go MIDI, program. When editing actual program groups and all that, you hit a wall pretty fast if you're used to actually programming synthesizers. So I would like them to expand, I'd like Akai to expand the capabilities of the actual programs and all that for better control, better programming and all that. For instance, modulation wheel mapping is very rudimentary, even if that. Like it'd be nice to be able to map at different things to the programs for more control. Another thing, I'm gonna pull up one of our expansion kits. Let's do this, yes, load. So another thing is that if you want to do 16 levels and then the tuning, so you know you got like you can play like the kick drum or something like that with different tuning. If you actually record this, let's do something real quick. I can't hear it right now, so. If you actually want to edit that pitch afterwards, some of you guys might not know this. I found this out recently and I was like, wow, that is convoluted. So if you look at the grid, you see it right here. It doesn't tell you anything about pitch, and you can't go into velocity, I believe, and change the pitch, right? Let's add new, add 0 to 1 parameters, maybe tuning? No, tuning doesn't even do it on there. Yeah, so you can't actually see it in the grid right there. The only way to change that pitch that I just played is to go menu, and then you want to go list edit. And then list edit has the values right here of the tuning because I played it that way. This is just so unintuitive. Like the notes are values, you know, based on where you played it from. Like, it's strange that this exists right now in this platform when you have all this like sequencer ability that's happening in here. So I would like this to not be so convoluted. I'd like an easier way to be able to take like a kick drum and tune it in the actual grid right here. You know, it might actually be in the step sequencer. Full disclosure, I don't really use the step sequencer because I don't think it's very good. Which is something else I'd like to see changed. I don't think you can actually change it here. I think the step sequencer also is without. Yeah, you have to go to list edit if you want to edit the tuning of individual hits in a program. It's like you have your main piano roll of all the different hits that are happening, and then inside of those you could adjust the tuning in there. I don't know how Akai would actually fix that into a more streamlined way. Like, there is the explode feature right here, so if you have this, you go like that, and now it's on like a new track right here, or so that it's like a key instrument basically. But what happens is you don't get the notes to transfer over. So maybe that's actually what they need to do. Maybe they need a little thing that says, do you want to transfer the notes from the original program over so it automatically maps? Like, that would actually be a solution right there, kind of, maybe, I don't know. I didn't exactly plan this video out, so I'm kind of spitballing right here. Now, obviously, everyone talks about bugs, and yes, I completely agree. They should not ship buggy software. So I think those are like the main things I would love to see. Obviously, there's more things that I want, like Q-Link functionality being better and easier mapping of stuff, or things that be saved after mapping them. Like, that's crazy that doesn't happen right now. So I would obviously like to see all that stuff, but things that would make me immediately go, oh man, this is amazing, is an expanded looper functionality, and way better audio track control type of stuff. They just seem like an afterthought right now with the way things are set up. Now, there is rumors of new hardware, obviously, because they sell hardware, so they're going to make new products and sell more stuff. The rumors of the MPC XL. That would make a lot of sense because the MPC X has been out for a while. I don't have the X. Like I said, I only have the MPC One and the Live 2. They obviously just dropped the Key 61 like 6 months ago, and that looks pretty cool. People seem to like it. The main thing that they changed with that, though, was they jumped the RAM up to 4 gigs from 2 gigs. So everything is basically the same, except for the Key 61 having 2 additional gigs of RAM, or double the RAM of everything else. That tells me that they are definitely sticking with the platform with subtle upgrades. RAM upgrades just means you could have more stuff in the system. It doesn't necessarily mean that you got more power. For future hardware, I would actually love to see more powerful processing power. One big thing that I'm disappointed about in the hardware version specifically that you don't have in the software version is audio warp algorithm. So this one right here, you have the option of basic, least CPU, and then Pro 10. And then in, I can't remember what it's called in the PC, but you have like an ultra version in the PC. And that version is significantly better than the Pro 10. The Pro 10 is decent, it'll get you by, but if you want something that sounds like Ableton Live's Pro time stretching, then you have to go into the PC version and select that, which is significantly better. Why would they not put that in the hardware? Because the processor is not fast enough to be able to handle it. So I would love for them, Akai, to consider better CPUs, because I think this CPU, it's like the A17 or something. It's an ARM chip, A17. I believe it's 2014, 14 or 15 or something like that. So clearly there has been some upgrades in the processing power since 2014. Clearly, right? So it would be nice to see some better processing power here in the near future. So if they did an MPC XL, I think a better CPU would be warranted. And then if you have that better CPU in your software or your hardware, they should just start enabling those features like better time stretching. If they do like an MPC One refresh, like I'd love to see more hardware or power in the hardware to be added. Because other things as well, like the plugin count, you can only have 8 plugins total right now on the hardware version, which isn't bad. Like I get by for sure, but I have hit that limit a few times and been like, oh, I have to pick and choose now or bounce things down to audio if I want to keep exploring different plugin options. So it would be nice if you could like maybe load 16 or something like that. Okay, let's jump over to YouTube and start talking about the comments you guys dropped. And thank you very much for commenting on that social post right there, or community post. I'm gonna go to the very beginning, so first comment and then start going through them. Dustin McAdams says, better looper functionality, easy MIDI foot switch support, MIDI mapping specifically for the looper. Yes, that would be awesome. Also an easy way to have external controllers mapped to Q-Links. Gave up a few versions ago, maybe it's possible now. As far as I understand, Dustin, no, it is not possible, but yes, I completely agree. So better looper functionality, already talked about that. The foot switch type of stuff, yeah, I don't know how they would integrate that. I mean, technically you probably could if you get it into the MIDI, so then the MIDI would just get mapped then under MIDI control. Right here, MIDI control, and you start mapping it. But the problem is it doesn't really like save project to project or something. Or you can't do like a global MIDI mapping right now. At least I don't think you can. Maybe you can? Let me know. That's something that I definitely would like to see in the very near future, because for the MPC Live 2, we actually have another MIDI controller hooked up to that to be able to control things like the cutoff of a mini D plugin, so it can be outputted in a different output and then control that and record it separately. And that's actually really cool. But again, you have to set it up every single time you want to do that for a project. So it'd be nice to have that stuff saved on the mappings. And yeah, the Q-Links, like, expand those. Okay, let's get those Q-Links even more functional. That would be great. Master Ivo says, being able to tune plugins to 432 instead of being stuck at A440. This is interesting. I don't personally adjust the tunings. I haven't done anything in 432 yet. You guys out there, how often do you want to do things in 432? I'm curious about that, because it feels like it's a very niche type of thing. Maybe not. Maybe a majority of people are thinking about tuning differently. So let me know. CRL Funkle says, exciting, love the fact that they are continuously updating the system. Yes, that should not go without underscore right there. It is awesome that Akai is still updating the platform. And if you bought an MPC Live, you know, several years ago, or MPC X, you're still getting updates. So that's really cool. So my wishes are able to map Keygroup, filter, LFO, envelope controls to QLink. Yes. Why is that not possible? Completely agree. A convolution reverb. I think a convolution reverb really depends on that CPU thing that I'm talking about, and it might require a better ARM processor to actually do convolution reverb, because those things tax the system pretty hard. The possibility to assign effects to an external input and not have it go through the channel 1 and 2 on the MPC, but out of the original channel, thus being able to use the MPC as a proper multi-effect unit and standalone. So I'm not 100% sure what Funkel is saying about that, but yes, on making the MPC even more functional as an external effects unit. I agree on that for sure. So thank you very much, Funkel. Jared Loiben says, I would like to see an MPC XL as their flagship with the following improvements from the X. Either 16 to 32 gigs of RAM or 2 gigs of RAM with slots to upgrade the RAM up to 64 along with similar improvements. 16 to 32 is a pretty big jump. Streaming from the hard drive, yes, absolutely. They obviously need that. 8 to 16 ADAT IO, that would be really cool. I would personally like that because I use ADAT all the time in my studio. So yeah, that'd be nice. Ability to run unlimited programs of every type with only the constraint of being CPU RAM. Yeah, it would be kind of nice if they just opened it up. So if we hit the limit of the CPU, then we know, but they're clearly not doing that yet. Unlimited polyphony, ability to use third-party non-affiliated plugins, more USB connections and associated software improvements so you could use a mouse. Interesting on the mouse. I don't personally want to use a mouse in there, but that's interesting, Jared. The thing about the plugins, and I see this quite a bit with the VST plugins on the MPC, is that it is, again, ARM architecture. That means even more CPU usage to convert it from Intel x86 or whatever, and now we have M1 Apple architecture. So if you go from x86 to the ARM architecture, which I guess would be Apple, M1, that's ARM. Anyways, besides the point, if you go from x86 Intel or whatever it is, whatever Intel architecture it is, to the ARM architecture on the MPC, there is going to be a layer of emulation on top of that that's already going to then take more CPU. And VST plugins notoriously are pretty heavy on the CPU. Like if you load up Pigments or like the new CS80, the GX80 plugin, they're gonna take a lot of CPU on the MPC. So I think this is one of these things where they need a better processor and then they can consider that. Because right now, if they release that feature, I have a feeling that the majority of stuff would be just extremely hindered and like wouldn't be able to function properly. Also, think about the DRM or like the security crap, A lot of plugins have these custom things you have to jump through, like iLock. How would they account for that on this platform? I don't think they would be able to, So I think it's one of those things where it's just such a big can of worms that maybe they're not willing to consider it yet. Just my 2 cents. Jeff Hopkins says, just bug fixes and better external audio device support instead of new features. I feel you, Jeff, definitely. I think the bugs are really annoying, and especially ones that kind of break the software, or if you use the MPC a specific way and it breaks it that way, that is extremely annoying. So I agree, better bug fixes for sure. And yeah, the external audio support has been hit or miss. Like the past few patches have introduced a bunch of crackling. I've seen a lot of comments about that, and it sucks, obviously. I think the latest one helped fix some of that, so let me know actually. If you guys upgraded to the latest, was 11.7, and if it fixed 2.11.7, if it fixed audio interface support for you. Dariel Bird says, I would kill for a more feature-complete MIDI learn functionality, like what exists on the Force. Interesting. I would also like a better audio looping. Same, man. You see a little theme here formulating. So yeah, better audio looping and also MIDI learn. Completely agree. Douglas Kane says MCU and Huey, more robust MIDI mapping, menu shortcuts via MIDI, pad perform settings per track and or sequence. Yeah, definitely interesting on that. Agreed, more MIDI support, all that. The MCU Huey type of stuff, being able to hook up like a separate fader system that controls it, that's interesting. Yeah, I haven't considered that, but that would be a pretty awesome option to be able to hook up and expand your MPC. Because technically you could use the MPC One and then have a whole system of faders next to it that could be intelligently mapped. Yeah, that'd be cool. Lee Luna says an arranger. I know this song mode, and I know it's rudimentary or somewhat, or I guess older at this point. I actually don't interface with the song mode hardly ever. so I can't give any feedback or perspective on that. So some sort of arranger that's maybe more akin to the song mode on the Digitakt type of stuff, the Electron stuff. I don't know, maybe. Jim Brimble says less bugs. Yes, less bugs, please. Cameron W says better audio interface compatibility. I have a new Personas interface, but I can't change the sample rate or buffer size in the MPC One settings. So the MPC hardware is locked in sample rate. I know for a fact it can't change its sample rate, and that's actually one of the bugs or one of the trip ups that can happen with like a Tascam Model 12. If you try to use a different audio sample rate with it, it'll be like not happening, you know? So I don't know if that's ever going to change. That's probably one of those things that's highly dependent on the CPU, because more sample rate or a higher sample rate is going to increase the actual CPU cycles required to be able to get the same audio out. So yeah, that might be a future thing right there. But yes, better audio interface compatibility. Agreed. Douglas Kane also says a stable update option in addition to the current feature update path. A stable performance update path that only notifies the user to upgrade when the new updates are bug-free as a setting. I think this is interesting actually, because it does kind of feel like we have a pseudo beta testing going on between, like they have their own beta testing department or chain that happens. So people get beta versions of the software and then they have the official releases, but it does kind of feel like the official release could use a stability option as well. So Douglas, that's not a bad idea, honestly. RL Antiputer says just no bugs and glitches. That's it. It's perfect the way it is. Cheaper plugins maybe. Yeah. And yeah, the MPC does do the majority of what I want. So even though I'm asking for better looper functionality and audio stuff, I'm still using it successfully. And yeah, the cost of plugins, you know, it's a 50-50 type of thing where I would love to see cheaper plugins, but at the same time, does that mean Akai wouldn't be able to develop more stuff at whatever rate? Like, are we going to get less stuff in the future because they can't charge as much? You know what I mean? So it's like, how much are you willing to pay knowing that Akai is going to keep on developing and delivering stuff in the future? So it's a personal choice, obviously. Joel Cardinal says song mode, essentially a way to record audio direct to the timeline. Yes. Like you would on a DAW. Audio tracks are too primitive and setting up clips is too time consuming. Zoom is even ahead of the curve with their touchscreen mixers. I'm not familiar with the Zoom mixers. Maybe at some point like to actually recommend it. If you guys think I should check out a Zoom mixer to test out with the setup, would love to hear it. Burned says Keygroup automation, filters, envelopes. Yes, agreed. Ivan has something. Ivan says that the internal synthesizers and effects receive program changes from the internal sequencer itself. If I have a sequence with a hype preset and in the next sequence I want to have a different preset, it cannot be done. Even an obsolete MV8800 or MC909 did it 20 years ago. Damn, Akai. Agreed, Ivan. I actually did not know that. I didn't know that you couldn't change programs from the actual presets inside, which is a pretty big oversight. Yeah, I agree. For live performance, I feel like that's such an obvious that would need to be done. But yeah, agreed. And they need program changes for their internal stuff, because like OPX4, Mini D, all that stuff is really good. So that's unfortunate that you can't change your presets. Marcus says a way to set the piano roll to show a fixed size of end bars and allow stepwise horizontal and vertical scrolling through the dial plus shift. Yes, I really hate doing things with the fingers on the screen, so often I change notes by accident. Completely agree, Marcus. Yeah, like they should totally make it so you could just scroll with this, like so, and then hold shift and scroll vertically. That would be awesome. I don't know if this does anything currently. Doesn't seem like it. Yes, Marcus, agreed. Det Director says a guitar plugin like those from UJam. I'm not familiar with UJam, so more plugins would be cool. Master Ivo also says in song mode, bouncing to a single sequence, the audio should match. I have not tested that, so if it doesn't, that is very strange. It seems like a bug. Hanny Elk says better handling for different time signatures so that the metronome doesn't stick to 4 beats per bar when it's actually 7 beats per bar. Completely agree. I wish 6/8 personally. I like 6/8 quite a bit, and I don't use it nearly as much because I find there's a few hoops that you have to jump through to make that stuff happen with some things. Obviously Electron boxes, it's a 4/4 time signature and you have to do math if you want to convert to 6/8. So I find myself just not doing that. But yeah, agreed. easier time signatures and having the click represent that would be nice. Steve Green says MIDI mapping that works. Should have been something that was part of an update years ago. Yeah, so MIDI mapping obviously does work technically when you go here and you do learn and all that stuff, but then it just doesn't remember it. It won't persist from project to project and all that. So it's unfortunate, yeah, because it expands the functionality so much more for performance type of stuff, and it really sucks that it won't persist on certain things. So yes, agreed. A linear arranger. I'm not really sure what a linear, by boy bands, a linear arranger. Not really sure what that means. Like better song mode, or something that's akin to the song mode on the Digitact. That could be. Kieran Menon says direct export to Ableton, kind of like Overbridge with Electron. That's interesting. I don't know if I could see that happening legitimately soon, but a direct export to Ableton. I mean, I guess like kind of like stems, but set up for Ableton. Interesting, Kieran. You know, one thing that I think would be awesome. This actually kind of makes me think of like the integration with the hardware and the software. I think it would be really cool if you could go straight from hardware to software, but have it like take everything that's on the hardware that you have currently loaded and directly reflect it onto the screen. Because after using the plugin with the Mini Freak, there's a little link on the top that says, you know, link to the hardware, and then they're linked, they're copacetic, like they show all the stuff together. I think that would actually be really awesome for the MPC hardware side of things, to have like a little button in the software that says reflect what the hardware has, have it communicate, you know, and then be able to route the stuff through the software. I don't know how likely that is. I do find that working with the software means that you have to go through several hoops, prepare the project, grab it, you know, bring it onto your computer, make sure you can load it, and then you hook up your hardware to be able to talk to the PC and then do the stuff. So ironing out that process and making it more simpler would actually be really welcome. And maybe that's kind of what you mean, Kieran. So Comedy Camping says a nice mixer. Yeah, I could see that for sure. The mixing setup right now is pretty minimal as it is. You know, you got this type of thing. So yeah, agreed. Better mixer. Old Uncle Mick says, I want the sampler to be able to auto trigger from the start of a sequence. This is what I was talking about. Yes. Either the end of the count in or the or when the sequencer loops. Yes. Agreed on both those. This would be a game changer for people like me who like to jam into the sampler with the sequence loops, and we need the result to be in sync with lots of futzing, without lots of futzing around. Completely agree, Mick. It is really unfortunate that you have such an awesome sampler / recording box in the MPC, but you can't easily record like 2 minutes of jamming and have it be in time with your 4-bar sequence. You know, like that sucks. So yeah, John Carter has 2 things. Says reliable MIDI mapping. Agreed. Once mapped, they stay mapped. No crashing. Yes. Want it to be rock solid, 100%, and an arranger mode. A lot of people talking about arranger mode. Benja says foot switch control over transport controls. That would be nice. Number 2, a way to lock the all feature in the key groups, so you can tweak envelope depth, for example, while playing. Oh, interesting. Yeah. And then number 3, Q-link mapping for envelope depth and other such parameters for key groups, saving a program with insert effects for immediate recall. Number 5, tracks have the ability to have their own lengths. Yes, I agree on all that, Benja. Yep. Aiden says master bus automation. That would be nice. Danny says a visual EQ and better reverb plugins, premium ones that are worth paying for. And if you want to add a function that can convert audio to MIDI, oh, that'd be nice, yeah. Other than that, looking forward to whatever they do. Yeah, as nice as the plugins are, I do find myself always kind of slightly disappointed in the reverb. I mean, I'm used to Valhalla reverbs and also nice hardware reverbs, so I'm a bit spoiled in that department. But I do think this platform could definitely do a really nice reverb. That being said, this might be one of these things that does require a better CPU for like a really nice lush reverb. Maybe, I don't know. Moving on, pad perform per track would be groovy and better looper functionality. Yep, yes, 22 goats, agreed. Esoj says the ability to invert phase of a sample. Oh, interesting, with the touch of a button within the program edit screen. Hell, I'll take the ability to do it in post-processing functions and standalone. It's criminal that is not standard considering all the things that they have given us already. Yeah, I didn't realize that. That is pretty, I guess it's more DAW based type of stuff, but they are moving more towards a DAW with this anyways. So Yeah, agreed. You should definitely be able to invert the phase. John says longer audio tracks, 5 minutes is not enough. Agreed. EJ Mick says just bug fixes, make it rock solid, stable. Really would not be comfortable taking any of my Akai machines on a live stage because of the bugs and crashes. Yeah, any of the recent stuff, like you gotta have a lot of confidence in exactly how you're doing things to make sure it's not gonna suddenly break in the middle of a show. So agreed. Marco says, for the hardware, MPC One Go with a battery, better headphone jack, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and volume knob on the top. Interesting. Make it thinner, RAM boost. For software, more stable, sensible pricing on plugin releases, better reverbs, and a visual EQ, like EQ8 in Ableton, maybe disc streaming, PC software, and a new cleaner GUI, and an arranger mode. Arranger mode, everyone's talking about arranger mode. MPC One Go, that is interesting. Yeah, I agree. Battery for sure. Something I didn't mention, that if they do a refresh on an MPC One, please, Akai, put a mic preamp on your box. Like they did 2 mic preamps for the Key 61. Great, I guess. But for something like this, especially if it had a battery, oh man, like it really just needs a simple preamp in there so you can just plug in a mic and not have to worry about noise and gain staging issues or anything like that. So, but agreed on all that stuff. Foul Secret says ability to set adjustable loop braces on all types of tracks and an adjustable loop start within the brace. Interesting. Then being able to have the ability to scroll through long sequences. This would be awesome to generate random MIDI sequences using external apps or plugins recording the MIDI. Set a loop brace and add a Rhodes or piano and scroll through it. So you're talking about, let's say you have 16 bars, just for example, and then you can set actual loop points in the 16 bars of that track to say like a 4-bar brace, and then have the ability to real-time scrub through that brace as it's looping through. That would be awesome, Foul. Don't think that's actually going to happen anytime soon, given what Akai is like focused on, but that would be cool. If they do start introducing different length track type of stuff, maybe they would have to put some sort of loop brace type of thing in there, kind of akin to Ableton Live clip type of stuff. So yeah, interesting. Dieter says no bugs would be great. Yes, agreed. Corey says stability. I'm still on build 2.10 because of the horror stories from the 2.11 builds. I've been on 2.11.6 since it released, and there's been bugs, but it hasn't been showstoppers for me. I have not been using the audio interface support features though recently. So, and again, 2.11.7 supposedly it fixed some of that, but you guys can let me know in the comments below. Han Human says step recording according to TC time correction settings when pressing overdub from any screen like older MPCs. Interesting. I'm not familiar with that, Han, so I can't comment on that, but yeah. And then the Taylor finally says strum feature to go with the ARP function. Oh, like the Novation gear? Yes, that would be awesome, Taylor. Agreed. I really like the strum feature on the Novation arpeggios for their MIDI controllers. Yeah, so agreed. That would be really cool. But yeah, that's it. Thank you to everyone who commented on that social post. I really appreciate it. And looking forward to reading the comments on this video as well. I'm really looking forward to what Akai is going to bring out this year, because it's been awesome seeing all these updates and changes, and obviously new hardware I'll be excited about, but mostly seeing the platform evolve from a software point of view has been really cool. And incorporating it into Ableton has been a real refresher, or maybe not refresher. It's been an eye-opening experience being able to use it effectively with Ableton, route out multiple tracks. Like anything that you have in the MPC, you can then set to different outputs on there. So on the plugin, you can do the exact same thing and have like 10 different outputs of different instruments, all going to different audio tracks in Ableton, process those separately, and then record them. And then like you can treat that as your files for mixing later on. So that's actually been really cool to do in Ableton recently. Yeah, I mean, we did that extensively in our recent album, Lost in the Noise. So all those tracks, like they started in basically an MPC. Meems wrote half the beats, tracked them out through the Ableton setup right there, and then just sculpted beyond that. Like it was a really cool experience. So that's kind of our go-to right now for when things start in the MPC and then get finished. So Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, a like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff really helps out. If you want to pick up any of the gear that we use Zounds. Zounds is awesome. They got like, you know, easy payment plans and all that stuff. And we're an affiliate and it helps support the channel. So if you do use them through our links, then thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We do have a Patreon that gets updated here and there. So if you want to help even further or support even further, you can sign up for our Patreon. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Deuces.